Yes, 101.1 FM, AM 1160, WCCSradio.com. It's 9 minutes after 11 o'clock. It is a Wednesday morning, and our conversation with the folks from the Indiana Players, brought to you by Marcus and Mack, voted best personal injury law firm in the Best of Indiana County contest. Marcus and Mack, a law firm representing injured people. So in the studio with me this morning is Bridget Waterhouse and Sharon and Richard Smith joining us. And here comes Katrina. We knew that she was going to make it in, and there she is. Katrina Caden joins us as well. Hi, Katrina.
Good morning.
It's good to have you all with us here today. And the Indiana Players interviews are so easy for me because all I have to do is say, what's the play and who plays what? So there you go. That's how we started this morning. What's the play and who plays what?
So the play is Anne of Green Gables, and I am directing. Bridget is playing Anne, and she dyed her hair for the role so that she has Anne's red hair. Sharon is playing Marilla, and Richard is playing Matthew Cuthbert.
Uh-huh. All right. So those are two of what I understand are three of a very large cast.
Yes, we have 30 people in our cast. The age of the cast ranges from 7 years old to 82. We have school students, we have IUP students, we have people out in the workforce, we have retirees. We have a very nice snapshot of our Indiana County community.
Yeah, nice, nice. Hey, Bridget, let's get you a little closer to the microphone and talk a little bit. You dyed your hair for this, huh?
Yes, I did. I'm not a natural redhead.
You're not naturally a redhead. Katrina, could you sort of point that at her a little bit?
Okay,
there we go. There we go. And you play Anne.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
This is my first lead role.
Well, tell me about it. Going for the lead role, was it something that you envisioned heading into it?
I did not go for the lead role. I went for the lead role's best friend, Diana, and then I got the lead role.
And how scary was that?
It was definitely a shock, but there was more excitement to it than anything.
Yeah. And what did the folks say when you said, I'm dyeing my hair red?
My mom was cool with it, and my dad hasn't really seen it until last weekend. So,
tell me about the role.
It's a very interesting role. She ages from 11 to 17 over the course of the play, and it was a little bit tricky at first trying to have her mature, but it's been an excellent experience, and it's been really, really fun to play.
Let me ask you this. Did you change your voice as your character aged? Did you go from a little girl voice to a more mature voice?
I try. You'd have to ask my castmates if I'm actually succeeding, but I do attempt.
Yeah. Well, it's just there's so much that you can do with a role such as this.
And I think what Bridget really succeeds at is it's really more of the tone and the pace of her voice, and same thing with her body language. You know, when she's playing a little girl, she's skipping. Whenever she's a little bit older, she's holding herself differently and more mature. So she really does a great job with her voice and her body language doing that.
She literally grows up during the course of the play. Well, let's talk with Sharon and Richard this morning as well, because you're in this play as well.
We are.
Yeah.
Marilla Cuthbert, and this is my brother in the show, Matthew. We are the ones that end up adopting Anne at the start of the show. You could probably call it a providential coincidence that we end up with Anne. But Matthew and Marilla, open their house to her and are very loving towards her eventually. Marilla is kind of a stern, keeps a perfect home, follows the rules, and she has a little harder time opening up to the new girl in the house.
Richard, what about you? How do you approach it? If you could come a little closer to the microphone.
Matthew's a softer personality. He is kind of quiet, very reserved. As I'm described multiple times in the show, I'm afraid of girls, except for Anne. So it's a different dynamics. A lot of things. The show is set in 1900. 1900s, early 1900s. And one of the things that really brought out in very first part of the show is the attitude towards orphans at that time. And how people would look at Anne because she's an orphan. It's basically less than a person. But we look at her differently as a couple.
Yeah.
Now we treat her as our own, you could say treat her as her own child, but very stern and relative. Doing a very good job of being the mean, nasty one.
I try. No typecasting. No typecasting at all.
I could react to that in so many different ways. But it's interesting that you play brother and sister, and yet one is a much harder edged character, and the guy is the softer side.
Yeah. From little bits of the story, if you've read the books, Matthew and Marilla didn't really have like a bad childhood. It just wasn't an open, loving, which sort of shows the time period, into the Victorian, into the Edwardian kind of time period where children were also second class for sure, brought up to do what you're told.
Yeah.
No questions asked.
Katrina, when we talk about this play, which is such a classic American play, and we talk about a cast that is this big for local theater, there are children, there are adults. It's quite the task to cobble it all together, isn't it?
It absolutely is, and I have a wonderful team behind me supporting me. I have a wonderful stage manager, costume designer, set designer, sound designer. So it really has been, it's really been a community endeavor. It's, we kind of are our own little village. And it is a little bit overwhelming when there's that many people in one space at a time, but it's so much fun. I love, part of the reason I chose this play, first of all, because I loved the Anne of Green Gables books growing up, but also because I wanted to direct a play that had that intergenerational cooperation, because I think that, adults and children can learn so much from each other that this experience is beneficial for all of them.
Interesting dynamics, aren't there, between child actors and young adult actors and older adult actors? Absolutely.
And but they end up coming together really well as a cast, and it just, it fits. I mean, you have your little roadblocks where sometimes you have to remind the younger actors that, they need to pick up after themselves. They need to be a little quieter. You have to remind the older actors that maybe we need to exercise a little more patience. So but it works. It comes together.
Yeah. Well, bringing the generations together for Anne of Green Gables. Now, showtimes.
So June 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and June 9th, 10th, and 11th.
Next 2 weekends.
Yes. Friday and Saturdays at 7:30 p.m., Sunday matinees at 2:30 p.m. We are highly recommending that people buy their tickets ahead of time on our website, indianaplayers.com. Opening night, the last time I looked, was almost halfway sold already. So especially if people are coming opening night or the closing matinee, we're encouraging them to get their tickets ahead of time so that they don't miss out.
Yeah, and especially when you have a cast this big and family members want to see, especially with younger actors.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Bridget, you're really looking forward to this. How many Indiana Players events have you been in?
This is actually my first one.
Your very first one?
Yes, my very first one.
Wow. And here you are as Anne in Anne of Green Gables. Pretty excited?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is my 5th production. I've done school plays and musicals, but this has been an absolute treat.
Oh, good. I'm glad you're enjoying it and looking forward to these next 2 weekends, huh?
Yes.
Terrific. All right. Well, thank you all for coming in to talk about it. We appreciate it, and we're looking forward to a couple of good weekends with the Indiana Players. Philadelphia Street Playhouse, by the way, is where the show is being done.
Thank you.
Thanks again. It is the voice of Indiana County. It's WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160, and WCCSradio.com. It's 21 minutes after 9 o'clock. Coming up, the CBS Sports in a couple. But we need to get to this morning's health cycle, so let's do that. Sarah Lee Kessler has the health beat, and Lisa Brady has house call for health.